Hello and welcome to episode 138 of the Arena Regulars podcast. I'm Zach,
And I'm Jeff.
and we're your source for drunken Magic the Gathering arena content.
That's right. Just a couple of dudes drinking some irregular beers and talking about Magic the Gathering, in particular, the online client MTG Arena.
And more in particular, the exciting new things that just got launched on Arena this week. Oh, baby, we got some new toys to play with. Very exciting.
This is the most Magic I've played in a very, very, very long time. So.
Oh, it's great. We've been waiting for something like this for a long time. So we're gonna get into it in just a second. But each week we drink a beer and we rate it on a scale from bronze to mythic, just like the tiers in Arena. So with that, Jeff, what is on tap?
So this week, very excited about this. Been waiting for it for a while. We're testing out a new
Hmm.
brewery called True History. We think it's new. It's hard to
Yeah,
tell from their website. It it is around where I used to live when I lived in Toronto, like not that far from me. And I like to believe that if it was around when I lived there, I would have known about it. So that's why in my head it's like brand new. But a friend of ours, friend of the show, has actually been a guest on the show,
yeah.
told us about it. And the cool thing about True History is that they only do like traditional old school styles,
Hmm.
which is really fascinating because the thing that sells right now is like IPAs and sours. They
Yeah.
don't have any of that on their menu. So they're
Which
legit just like we're gonna appeal to a, you know, and what is now a niche demographic of people who appreciate these old styles rather than jumping on the fads because that's what
mhm.
I like and we're just going to do it and they're able to keep afloat doing that. I mean, the beer must be pretty good.
Yeah, it must be pretty good. And any recommendation of beer that we get from our brewer friend, who's also in our Discord, um, we have to take him up on it because he knows beer so well and so much better than we
Yeah.
do. Um, and it also is the type of thing that brewers tend to go through that like path where they like start drinking beer, want something more exciting, start making their own beer, make really crazy exciting beers, drink all those crazy exciting beers, get overloaded, go to classics. I guess it's more
And
the other
learn why the classics are classics and why the
exactly.
traditional beers have
And you
stood
get
the test of time.
you get tired of like the sours and the wacky pumpkin beers and stuff.
Yeah.
So, and we've been drinking a lot of beer on the show, so I think we are getting closer to that realm as well.
Yeah. I mean,
Uh,
I was tired of the wacky pumpkin beers when we started.
okay, well, I still like them. But anyway, Jeff, tell us about this specific one that we're drinking.
All right. So we're going to start with the best beer from
Hmm.
Stone, or it's called Stones. It is 5.6%. Now, it occurred to us as well, we may not know what a fest beer is. In my head, it was like the lager equivalent of an amber ale.
Hmm.
So like a little more malty, redder or like darker in color. When you looked it up, it said something like blonde and light in the mouth. So then I was like, I guess I just don't know what a fest beer is, and I'm about to learn.
Yes. So let's crack it open. Let's see what true history has for us. But with that, Jeff, we have some magic news.
Oh yeah, this is super light.
This
Okay.
is
Fella.
super light beer, looking beer. Let's see how it
Yes.
tastes. So in Magic news, Cons of Tarkir has just dropped onto MTG Arena. We've been waiting for this for quite some time. And with Cons, we also get the new constructed format, Timeless, which is every card on Arena is able to be played. Um, crazy, crazy times. Didn't think it was gonna, we were really gonna get there. More on that in a little bit, but if you're playing Cons Draft or Limited right now, the Arena Open is this weekend, December 16th and 17th, and it's Cons Limited, which is fantastic. I love when they do this like right away. I kind of like, obviously, people
Yeah.
have drafted this set before, so they can do it almost immediately, but I like when it's very, very soon after it releases.
And I think this is a particularly interesting case of that because this benefits their long-term players who have been around and like
Hmm.
will have logged more drafts of cons than anyone else, even though there was whatever 10 years
In between.
between. So it's like perfect because they will have an edge, but the edge won't be that big because, or as big as you think, because it was like 10 years ago that they were drafting.
Hmm.
And that was a totally different time. Like we didn't have the data that we have now. Formats weren't solved the way they are now. Like
Hmm.
it used to be that like pro tour teams would go in with like secret tech in draft strategies that other people hadn't figured out. Like that was a
Yeah.
thing that was happening at pro tour. It doesn't happen anymore. Everyone figures
No.
out the format instantly.
Yes.
So there
Or
were
if you do have secret tech,
secret
it's
decks that nobody knew
crazy,
about.
crazy
Right, like it
secret
would have
stuff.
to be next level.
Uh,
For the millions and millions and millions of games that are played, no one's figured it out. But
mhm.
you, like, it's just so unlikely now.
Yeah.
Uh,
So we'll get into that. There's actually I've seen a couple interesting lists that are a little bit different. So that interested in investing some more time into looking at how to draft some of these other archetypes. But um, we did have a couple of downers this week, actually. This
yes.
happens every once in a while. I did want to highlight these because one of them's kind of funny and the other one's really sad. So the kind of funny one I'll start with is that when we updated MTG Arena, a few players this week were not able to actually log into their account and be drafting and playing timeless. Um, Most notably, this got talked about a lot more because a couple streamers it happened to. So Amy the Amazonian, who streams MTG Arena every single day,
Yeah,
um,
very popular streamer.
she could not play Magic for the last few days, and Court of Calls as well could not. They were posting on Twitter, and I know there's many, many more. Um, and apparently,
I'm
there's
pretty
a
sure Court of Calls is like a huge limited player and would have been psyched to jump
huge,
into cons, right?
huge.
Yeah,
Um,
that sucks.
yeah, he even has an article from Channel Fireball. I mean, he played cons back before, so he still knows the format. But like, like a huge downer. Like they were waiting for this, and they found out that the reason that the bug happened and only happened to specific people, because obviously it doesn't happen to everybody. It
Right.
was
I
only
had no issues.
players. Yeah, I had no issues either. So this bug that made it so you couldn't access your account only happened to players who have a historic brawl deck with a commander from Battle for Baldur's Gate, and that commander has to have specialize. So the reason I think this is funny is because historic brawl is obviously an arena only format, and specialize, well, Battle for Baldur's Gate is an arena only set. The card, sorry, the mechanic specialize is only on arena. Battle for Baldur's Gate was a set that also was in paper, but Specialized was made specifically for Arena.
Right.
And it's just hilarious to be the players that are playing the digital only cards and like them enough to build a brawl deck around one of them and know a lot about it, get locked out of the digital client, and all the other players can play, but the ones who actually like the digital cards can't play. That's crazy. That's like the really enfranchised arena player can't play. Ridiculous. It's
Yeah, as someone who has to work with computer code all the time, this just makes me laugh because it's like that's always what happens. You're like,
mhm.
how could this possibly be causing this other problem? Like,
Yeah.
how could a deck that involves a specialized, how could the code possibly work that way? That the deck, you have a deck that involves specialized, you can't log in.
Mhm.
And then when you track it down, you're just like, what the fuck
What?
happened?
Why did this
Yeah.
happen?
No wonder nobody. So I don't like fault them for this because this is just something
No.
that happens, and it's like no one could ever have predicted that this chain of like logic would lead to this. But it just makes me a smile because it's like, oh, this is why every project gets delayed at work because you're like, it's not working, and I have no fucking idea why. It seems like it only doesn't work for people with this specific thing. It
Thing.
makes no sense that that would be the case, but it is. And then you like track it down.
Yeah.
So I know some people were working some overtime at WotC being like, why are people who have we figured out that it's people with specialized commanders, but
Mhm.
why is that happening?
Yeah.
Like, it's
Now that we tracked it down, how do we fix it? Um,
yeah,
Luckily, it has been fixed by now. Today there is a patch that solved it. So this is only 2 days after.
couple of
Um,
days. Not that's
I
not
guess,
bad, man, for
yeah.
like It's got to be a massive code base, and
Hmm.
like this makes no sense. That why would these two things even be related?
Yeah.
Like
Well,
your login credentials. And
exactly. It's good that this got solved very quickly because the challenge bug is still active, where you can't always challenge your friends, which has shut down all tournaments on Arena. Um, which
right,
is
there's also a Lurus bug right now.
Oh, I didn't hear about the lures bug actually.
Yeah, you're just allowed to cast multiple things from your graveyard with Lurus.
Oh,
Yeah, it makes Lurus. Well, it
busted.
makes Lurus busted. Lurus is busted, but
Yeah,
this
but
makes it outrageous.
way busted.
Yeah.
Especially because you're playing zero cost artifacts and things like that. Okay.
I don't know if
Um,
that's been fixed, but like 2 days ago, that was the case. And people
the
were posting like, is this a weird thing with Ragavan? Because I dashed Ragavan out of my graveyard and then also played another creature. It's like, no,
no,
you're not allowed to do
you shouldn't be able to do that.
that.
That's the timeless format for you.
Yeah.
Uh,
Yeah.
but anyway,
Just because, Lurus wasn't going to see enough play, they decided to really amp it up.
amp it up. The digital version is better
Yeah.
than the one that's banned everywhere else.
Yeah.
Um,
They actually buffed it.
yeah. The other downer thing that happened, this isn't specifically arena related, but Hasbro has been seeing. So Hasbro is the parent company for Wizards of the Coast, who makes Magic the Gathering. Earlier in the year, they had laid off about 800 people. They anticipated their kind of products weren't going to do extremely well, but they knew there were going to be some more layoffs, but they didn't know how many. And then they got their fourth quarter whatever review and laid off 1,100 people about 2 weeks before the holidays. Um, and this is mainly from their toy division is not doing very well. And actually, like WotC and Magic has been doing extremely well and keeping Hasbro afloat, but that didn't keep WotC away from the
Mhm.
axe. We some WotC employees did get fired. Um, Paul Chion being probably the one of the biggest ones that people really know, as he's a main person in coverage for Magic the Gathering. I think that's unrelated to his actual job, um, so that's more contract work. But that's how a lot of people know him nowadays.
I
So
mean, he used to work as a designer, or he was like a pro playtester or something. So when they would design a sets, they had pro players try to break it basically, and then
mhm.
tell them what cards are too good and where the
Yeah.
nerfs were and stuff.
So anyway, he has been let go, as well as a bunch of other people and a bunch of people from Dungeons and Dragons. And it makes a little bit more sense now when we were talking about like, oh, in August, WotC had put out all the like the next 3 years of Magic, like they had given to us,
Hmm.
which was we were like, why is this happening? This seems so strange. So I think that there were rumors going around. So I don't think that this was an extreme shock to people, but it was
Right.
kind of like there's an email sent out being like, people are going to lose their jobs, and then if you get the email, you lost your job, and that's kind of how that happened, and that it's
Yeah.
been very sad, especially this time of
Yeah,
year.
that was WotC trying to make the case that people are psyched for them and please don't fire us.
Yeah, yeah. So that's that's just a bummer. So thoughts go out to everyone who was affected by those, and we won't just remember that the projects that are coming out this next year have already been basically close to finished. Um, so design wise, we won't really see a lot of the ramifications to some of this for a few years.
Yeah.
So in about 2 years, if we look, we're like, well, this set didn't really hit. Could have been because the people got fired right now.
The problem is that that works both ways. Like, even if they realize they don't have the staff they need to make the same quality content, it's going to
Hmm.
take a few years. There's going
To
to be a few years of bad sets, basically.
exactly, yeah. And WotC also gets to say, hey, look, the or not WotC, Hasbro gets to say, look, the sets are doing really well. Our decision was right. We're like, well, no, but that set was already done. Like
Yeah, yeah.
you're. So anyway, we're gonna. I think we can anticipate um, extra secret layers and a lot more straight to consumer products in
Mhm.
attempts to grab even more cash. If you didn't already feel like they were doing that already, but
Please.
anyway, so that's just a thing. Just look out for that. And
You know what I was hoping for? more spoilers. I think
Yeah.
I think I need more spoilers in
Yeah.
play.
Let's do more of that. Oh my god. Anyway, let's talk about Cons of Tarkir.
Yes.
Um, because this is so fun because I hadn't drafted really this set at all before this last week. Um,
Yeah.
I was not playing during cons. I had come back to Magic right after it in Magic Origins, but you played through cons and knew it quite well. So, how is it coming back to it after all these years?
It feels the same. If
Hmm.
honestly, it feels the same. Um, so cons for me is a set that holds a special place in my heart because I took a Magic break, basically like high school and uh, my undergraduate. I didn't play. I don't remember how much I played in middle school. I think a little bit, and then that's kind of when I stopped.
Hmm.
Um, wasn't cool enough, I guess. I don't know, whatever. But
Yeah,
I stopped playing, and then when I didn't care about being cool anymore, I came back to it, and that was exactly at Cons of Tarkir.
great
Um,
timing.
little aging myself there a bit, but yep. After I finished undergraduate was when Cons of Tarkir came out. Um, and I was just like, you know what? Like I haven't played Magic or whatever. I'm just gonna go to a draft or whatever. And I had so much fun that I was just doing the like F&M thing, I guess, just going to the
Hmm.
draft at my local store every week. And yeah, I just drafted a lot of this set. And then I started going to like PTQs and stuff in Fate Reforged and
Oh, okay, so
Dragons.
very
So
soon
those were the ones
afterwards.
where I was like competitively playing limited. Cons was all just like having
Fun.
fun at the local store kind of thing. So my concern was like a lot of the strategies I'd learned or remember having the most success with back in the day were just like local store strategies and probably weren't the real
Oh,
deal.
sure.
But the decks I'm playing against are the decks I remember being good,
Hmm.
and the decks that I'm doing well with are the decks that I remember being good and stuff. So um, I don't know. It's just like the nostalgia is awesome because there's another level to it that if you're listening and you tried cons, you haven't tried it yet. If you've tried it, you'll notice it's so different than a modern limited set.
Hmm.
Two drops don't matter as anywhere near as much, and like the removal is awful, and it's just chock full of literally unplayable cards. Like
Hmm.
that just doesn't happen anymore. Every card is the worst card in the set is like something you can play if you need to kind of
Yeah,
thing these days. No, there's like unplayable garbage in this in this
yeah.
set, especially in Best of One, because a lot of it was like designed to be sideboard
Sideboard.
only.
Yeah, what's that
Um,
freaking that black enchantment? Molting Snakeskin. Um I've never seen anyone play this card. I'm sure
Even
you.
stuff like Erase, there's like one mana
Oh,
exile
oh
target
sure.
enchantment. You're just never gonna play that
Yeah, and
in
Shatter,
modern
yeah.
day. Yeah.
It's just like no.
Yeah, and then the removal, it all looks awful to
Hmm.
a modern day player, I'm sure. But actually it's mostly pretty good, and you kind of have to take
Hmm.
it because that's just
What you
what you
have.
get.
Yeah.
And you have to remember, like, you have to think that something like two-thirds of the creatures in this format are two-twos.
Hmm.
Because the most common play by far on turn three is to morph
Is a
something.
morph. Yeah.
So stuff like debilitating injury, which is dead weight that costs an extra mana, is
Hmm.
actually a good card.
Yes.
Even though you'd read that and you'd be like,
This
oh man, like
sucks.
dead weight for two? That sounds awful.
Yeah. But
Uh,
actually, thank God that it is dead weight for two, because if it was
oh,
just dead weight,
dead weight would be
it
absurd in this format.
busted. Yeah, there's
Yeah.
so many two power thing or
Stuff
two
like
toughness
bring
things.
low, it's like, ugh. In
Hmm.
a normal set, normal modern day set, I would be really not want to play this. But
Yeah.
in this set, I'm like, ooh, bring low. Not bad, not bad.
Yeah, and bring low
Three
like.
damage for four mana? Pretty
Hmm.
good.
Yeah. At instant speed, okay. And also, if the creature has a +1/+1 counter, it deals 5. So every once in a while, you like outlast your creature, and it's a 3/4, and you're like, sick. I'm feeling pretty good. And then they just bring it, bring low, and you're like, oh fuck, okay,
Yeah,
never mind.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
I literally just made it. Well, there's nothing I could do. I guess at that point, you're just like, whatever.
It was gonna
It
die either way. Yeah.
yeah, exactly. Um, so So you're saying that you're doing quite well drafting, playing
I
cons.
wouldn't even say that. So I've only done 3 drafts on Arena.
Okay.
I got 7 wins, then I got 2 wins, then I got 5 wins. So I've done like the whole spectrum. I've done like the excellent draft, the terrible
Hmm.
draft, and the like pretty good, but we're happy with it draft.
Gotcha.
The
I
deck that was the
yeah.
best deck I drafted was the 2 win
Hmm.
deck by far.
Oh,
That deck was
okay.
absurd, but I never
Hmm.
hit more than 3 lands in all 3 of my losses. The 2 games that I actually drew lands and spells,
Hmm.
I crushed.
Yeah.
And then every other game was just like sitting there playing a morph every single turn because all I had was 3 lands.
And you can't
And just
unmorph
being
it,
like,
and
eventually I'm gonna lose just playing 2/2s for 3 every turn.
hmm.
Yeah, so how have you been doing in the format?
I have been doing horribly. It has been the worst draft format. Um, it's been very bad. Very, very bad. Actually, so it's so funny. I've been streaming this week. I did my first drafts of cons on stream. Um, I've drafted about 10 times now. Um, and they've all been pretty brutal. I think I've only had positive win percentages twice, so it's been like
Oof.
I've racked up a lot. I've learned a lot about losing at
Blown a lot of
this thing.
gold.
Yeah, I did have to re-up some gems, just
Yeah.
to make sure. But I'm also okay with it because I do want to get better at this, especially because this is the classic, like you said before, grindy formats are not my favorite. I really like fast formats, things that like reward you for going 1 drop, 2 drop, 3 drop. This set, there are some 1 drops you can play, but a lot of them are traps. Or a
Yeah,
lot.
that's
There's
the
a
thing if
few.
you're a new player.
Hmm.
It was just the limited advice for years. As long as like I can pretty much remember. You just don't play 1 drops in limited. That
Yeah.
sounds weird to a new player because 1 drops like
Now,
I don't want to say they define the formats now, but they're very, very like,
I don't
we're
know.
talking Spyglass Siren, we're talking the hawk that like
Guidewing, yeah.
Guidewing, yeah. And like these are just good limited cards that you are
Hmm.
actively interested in taking relatively early. That's not like in old sets like this, it's like you, you don't take 1 drops.
Yeah. And
And
it's so
like maybe
funny.
you play them if you get one late in an aggro deck kind of thing, but generally they're never worth it.
Yeah. While I've actually been finding that like this set has a lot of like big butts. There are a ton of creatures that have like huge toughness. Like 2 mana O5s and or O6s even. And just
Yep.
like there's like a 3 mana O5 that flies and just like stuff like
Yeah.
that where it's like
It has morph though, so
it has morph. Yeah. Um
to me I always called that card Gray Ogre, right? Because it's like this is literally a 2/2 for 3.
mm-hmm.
And it will come up occasionally that you unmorph this
You
thing
unmorph it.
for the most part.
But like like a lot of the time, the boards just get stuck because there's like you have a 3/6 and I have a 4/5 and I have a 2/3 and it's like all these weird combat
Yep.
situations and the combat tricks aren't very good for the
No,
most
they're
part
awful. That's
and
the
the
other thing.
removal's
Like
pretty
they've
bad.
figured out how to make good 1 drops in limited. They've figured out how to make good combat tricks in limited.
Hmm.
The removal in this set was like intentionally kind of bad because
Yeah.
if the removal was super efficient, morph would be a terrible mechanic basically.
Yeah, exactly.
And so removal has ebbed and flowed since the
Hmm.
time that I've played. Sometimes it was like too efficient, sometimes it was too inefficient. They've kind of settled on, you have your good like efficient uncommon removal and then like kind of your sort of crappy common removal. And
Yeah.
that's like their template these days. Um, but uh yeah, the removals in this set, short of Murderous Cut, is awful.
Hmm. Which is hilarious because I haven't seen Murderous Cut once,
Oh
like
yeah?
played or in draft. I have never
I
seen that
got
card.
triple Murderous Cut once
That is
in one of my games.
disgusting. So Murderous Cut is a black, just like murder. It's like what is it? 4 and a black. Yeah, 4 and a
It's
black.
4 and a black with Delve, yeah.
Yeah, at instant speed. And it just like so you could easily murder something for 1 mana. Um, And
Yeah,
that's
but it is interesting because it doesn't save you early. Like
yes.
if you're getting pressured early, Murderous Cut's not going to help. It's one of
Hmm.
those things that just lets you double spell later in the game, and you get so far ahead because you're like, play my own 5 drop plus kill your 5 drop.
Hmm.
And it's like that's just a backbreaking turn.
Yeah. And I think just like the fixing the fix well the fixing sorry, I'm my brain is going into a million directions, but
Yeah,
what I'm trying to say is the actual like creature card fixing isn't fantastic. We don't have a bunch of things that like fix your mana, like artifacts that filter or things like that we're used to today. But
yeah,
there are lands everywhere because it's not a
yep.
land slot in your pack. It's just lands are just common cards, and packs could have three common
And
dual
uncommons.
lands. Yeah, and you have the common dual lands, the uncommon tri lands, and then the rare fetch lands.
Yeah,
And
you can have a pack with like 4 multi lands in it.
yeah, it's nuts. Um,
Yeah.
and so like you're fixing as far as that goes, most games start with like tap land, untap land, morph. That tends to be how
Yes.
the game begins.
Yeah, if you have a hand that doesn't start till turn 3, that's okay.
Yeah, because your opponent probably has the same hand.
Yeah, like it's super common to just play tap lands and then morph on turn 3.
Yeah.
And
So
that
there,
yeah,
this
that's
this
that's how most games start, I would say.
mhm. This format really likes you, like it tells you, hey, be greedy, play just cards you find, prioritize lands, and making sure that you can play. Playing 3 colors is obvious, but playing 4 and 5 is very, very common, and most people are doing it.
Yeah.
So just, just I'm trying to be able to lean more into that. I don't really like playing 5 color. I think it's something that a lot of
Okay,
Magic.
so
So I think a lot of Magic players love that, and especially like um kind of I don't know if it's like newer players or just like janky stuff, but I love looking at my hand, having my 2 colors and a 1 drop, a 2 drop, and a 3 drop, and that is I love that. The feeling is so good. Having the first couple turns of trying to make sure I get the right
mhm.
colors and making sure I get that, and then being able to turn the tides of battle is not my favorite. I'd much rather just punch them so hard, so fast that they can't turn ever. And if
Well,
they miss a
again,
land
this is the
drop,
set to work on that then.
I know, I know.
Is, you can play warriors. If you get black white warriors, you can do the you're dirtling around with tap lands and I'm gonna punch you in the
Yes,
face.
I did find out that black white is the color combination that you want, and don't lean on red mainly and then white because I tried that and it did not
Oh
go
yeah,
well.
no. In fact, you should pretty much only play red, like for a good reason. Something like ankle shanker is a very fucking good reason to
Oh
play red.
Jesus fucking
Um,
Christ!
even
Ankle.
like the pony back brigade, that's a good enough
Hmm.
reason to splash some red. But don't just splash random red cards in your black white deck. The black white deck is an aggro deck. It's the aggro deck of the format.
Hmm.
It might not seem as fast as you're used to, but that's because the format's really slow. So if the aggro deck was really fast, then it
Then
would
it
be
was just.
absurd.
And when and people did know that, and when the set first dropped, you couldn't play warriors. It was like almost impossible to draft the deck.
I never see it, and I play against it a lot.
Hmm. And so now it's like I think after this weekend, because once the Arena Open happens, I think anyone who was practicing for the Arena Open will probably stop and play something else, maybe play Timeless. So if you want to just like practice in like a lower stakes situation, or if you're having problems this week, like me playing cons, I think next week will be a little bit easier because there will be people who like let go a bit, and then you might be able to open up a little bit more. Because this
So
cons is
my
running till like the 16th of January, I think.
yeah, yeah. My memory of Warriors was that if you were the only player drafting and the cards in the packs were there, then you're gonna 3-0.
Hmm.
But if either of those things aren't true, you're
You're
probably gonna like 1-2.
Yeah, and just
And this
get
was, again, old school. You played 3 best of
Hmm.
3 matches. That's how drafts work.
Yeah.
Yeah. It wasn't a to 7 or whatever. Um, so it was very like you got to get the signal to go warriors. You're getting the chief of the hordes and like whatever.
Turn or pick
You're
4 or something.
yeah, and people are saying, "Hey, nobody else at the table is doing this." And you're seeing the uncommons that you need to see for this deck to be
Hmm.
relevant, then you could audible into it. I basically never did it because it just felt too risky. Like you would just end up with a bad deck too often
Hmm.
because you have to take some. I think now I'm a little more open to like wasting picks, but that's the modern player in me that's like you always have enough playables. You don't
Hmm.
always have enough playables in cons because you're
You,
taking lands. There are lots of bad cards. You got to be
yeah.
really cognizant of how many playables you have at
You could
every
be
point in the draft.
you could actually be playing like vanilla creatures. The set has
Yeah, yeah,
vanilla
yeah.
creatures.
You're
I
you're
was
gonna have to play some grizzly bears, man.
it's so funny because I was talking on the stream about this where it's like I'm just all the times we've talked about, oh, vanilla creatures are gone, we don't have them in limited, we barely have French vanilla creatures anymore, which are creatures that just have keywords like flying or reach or whatever.
Yeah,
um the, the fact that when I am the first thing that happens when I'm drafting cons, I'm like, ugh, this vanilla creature, fuck this card, I hate this card.
yeah,
But like
yeah.
every time I talk about it besides that, I'm like, oh, remember the days with vanilla creatures, that was great. We really just need
Right.
something like that.
Yeah, yeah.
um
We need those old school stuff.
so I think
I on the topic of vanilla creatures, just to jump in really
yes.
quickly. Alpine Grizzly is a way higher pick than you think it is.
Hmm.
That's something that I
It is.
knew from playing in the past. So I was like, whoa, that's like a sixth pick Alpine Grizzly, like
Hmm.
slam. And
So
everyone else is like, what is this vanilla piece of shit?
yeah, it's a 3 mana 4/2 that's it. um But the reason that it's good is because there's a lot of cards that care about having 4 power. And on
Yeah,
turn 3, a lot of the time you're just playing a 2/2 because that's what all your morphs are. So if you can Alpine Grizzly into something else that cares about having 4 power, pretty strong. Um, though it doesn't block well. And it does get just like traded with a morph. Though, trading with morphs is totally fine because they're going to get worse in the like
yeah.
later on.
That's the thing that I think that's the secret thing that makes it great
Hmm.
is your opponent is incentivized to trade their better creature with it. They're like
Hmm.
attacking with an Ifrit Weapon Master, and you're
Hmm.
like,
Block. Yeah.
I
And
just
you're like,
traded an Alpine Grizzly for a 4/3 first strike that's going to flip and do something +3/+0.
yeah. So
That just
I
feels like a win,
it
even though
does
you're even on mana. Like your card quality, you won the card quality battle. They spent a higher pick on their card than you spent on yours.
totally. And their card was also going to like, change the tides of battle and like be
Yeah.
crazy.
But
Any
they
of
feel
them.
they need to block because they can't just take 4
Hmm.
damage a turn. And
Yes.
their plan is to play more fun turn 3, more fun turn 4. Like they gotta
Yeah.
block. So the other thing is there is an Alpine Grizzly aggro deck. I remember this
Hmm.
from back in the day. This was like the deck that you kind of wanted to be,
Yeah.
but it wasn't the stars had to align. But you're taking like all the quote unquote bad cards. You're taking like Singing Bell Strikes, you're
Hmm.
taking Alpine Grizzlies, and then you're just like the plan is literally just like play 4/2s and then like force away and then Singing Bell Strike and then they're dead like surprisingly quickly because they don't you're probably not playing a 1 drop or a 2 drop, right?
Hmm.
So it's just like Alpine Grizzly untap, like Alpine Grizzly untap, like remove both your blockers, swing for 8, and then
Yeah.
suddenly your opponent's fucked.
So I was gonna talk about this because I didn't know about this deck until recently.
Yeah.
I've been seeing some people talk about it online. But the card that actually surprised me the most in this aggressive green deck, I've seen some people with the green blue and the green white versions of this, but
Okay, I
they're
remember the green blue version from my
mhm,
days at the local shop where everyone was always like, "Oh man, I really hope I'm Simic Grizzlies today."
mhm. And the card that stood out to me the most, I don't know if this is a card that was played in that, but I'm assuming that it probably was, is Smoke Teller. So
Hmm.
Smoke Teller is just like a 2 mana 2/2 that has an activated ability. You could look at like face down creatures your opponents control, but you don't care about that at all. Though somebody did it against
No,
me.
That was
today.
part of the Grizzlies aggro
Hmm.
deck because it's a grizzly bear.
Yeah, it's a
It
grizzly
doesn't it
bear.
doesn't do
It
anything
doesn't do
else. It's a
anything.
grizzly bears.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so you play that and then you just yeah, just go straight to the face and then you actually take and play Awaken the
And
Bear.
again, you're so happy trading that for a morph, right?
Yeah,
Like,
absolutely. Because you're like, mine costs 2, yours costs 3, and is better in the late game. So like
yeah.
when your opponent's attacking you with like 4 of those smoke teller dudes, you're just like, what? I
And nobody else wants Smoke Teller because it's
exactly
fucking
because
grizzly bear.
it's awful. Like it, and it also, it looks exactly like one of the unplayable trash cards, but in
Yeah.
fact, it can be very good if you build around it. So that's the next deck I'm interested in building. Is this smoke teller grizzly bear
Yeah, yeah.
like attack?
Sometimes you just see a dog shit pack too. Like that just
Hmm.
happens in cons where everything
Yeah,
sucks, and you're like, I'm gonna take Alpine Grizzly. That's just what I'm gonna do. I'm just
yeah,
gonna do that, and then I'll feel comfortable taking ferocious cards and stuff like that. Like maybe
exactly.
I'm giving myself an out to draft the deck that is all bad cards but is a good deck. Like
Hmm.
that's one of the things that older formats are more known for. Like now everything's super streamlined. Every color pair has the thing they're trying to do, and you know what the good version of every color pair is.
Hmm.
Cons is so different from that. There are still these weird archetypes, but some of them are good because they make use of the bad cards that nobody else wants and stuff.
Yeah.
So it's like, um, yeah,
I also just want to say that like when we drafted, well, Jeff and I had drafted cons once for like with all our friend group, and Jeff was telling me that he was playing Secret Plans, and I was like, really? That card is terrible, right?
so
Because
good.
in my mind, cons was like packs that I would open or cards I would get from like dollar store packs or random shit. And Secret Plans is the biggest piece of crap because it's just like green, blue for an enchantment, and your face down creatures get +0/+1. So they're all two
Ooh,
threes. And then whenever you
huge.
a permanent you control is turn face up, you draw a card. Now, this is a very good card in this limited format. But
Yeah,
like,
when all of your morphs are 2/3s.
yeah,
Ooh.
so much better than your opponents. You can attack with your morphs, and your opponent has to like double block in like these weird ways. And then just literally being like, well, later in the game, you just like morph a creature you could just play just so you can draw cards to like beat your opponent. Secret Plans is
So the
awesome. I
The
I
thing that happens in these morph battles, right? So
mhm,
a quick tip is when you have a hand with multiple morphs, I tend to favor playing my shittiest one first
mhm,
because you're gonna do the morph chicken thing
mhm.
where someone attacks their morph into the other person's morph, and whoever has the crappier morph is gonna win that battle on the trade.
Yeah.
So you have to like gamble on whether your morph is crappier than their morph. Um, is basically how it goes, and like they all morph for like 5, 6, 7 mana. So on turn 3, you're not gonna don't play the good one because
You can't
um,
morph. You
you're
can't
not gonna
unmorph it.
morph
That
it next turn anyways.
yeah, exactly.
So what then happens is Arena tells you which one they played first, second, and third, and you have
Hmm.
to figure are they juking me? Did they really play their good one first to try to get me to block the second one they played? And like you get into all these weird morph mind games.
Hmm.
But you get into this game of Morph Chicken where you both have like 5 mana, and it's like who's gonna unmorph first because the other
Hmm.
person can like play a removal spell out of nowhere or something, or morph a different thing, like give it +3/+0 from a weapon master kind of. And so you're just like pass priority, and they're like,
Hmm.
"Mm, pass
Let's
back," and then the
yeah.
morphs trade, and you
This
see
shit.
who was right.
In the
Um,
graveyards, yeah.
But when your morphs are 2/3s, you don't have to fucking worry about that. Like they have to act
Yeah.
first, and that is huge.
I do want to say, like, as we're in the morph thing with the morph chicken and all that, that my biggest thing right now is just memorizing all the morphs and
Yeah,
knowing when they attack me, okay, which one could it be? All right, it's not, they don't have 6 mana, so it can't be the woolly mammoth guy, the 6/7, the
yeah,
green one.
that one's a house.
That's
That
like
one,
the
that one was like one of the best commons in the set. I think it is the best green common, right?
mhm,
That's what I had it as, just because it is the biggest morph.
yeah.
And so when you get into these games of morph chicken, you know you're gonna win.
Hmm. And you get in situations where you're like, Okay, and finally today I've come to the realization that it's like, okay, if they're attacking me with this thing, they have 5 mana up and they have Abzan mana. I'm going to double block this because I think that it's the 4/4
The
lifelink and I want to
4/4
kill
lifelink.
it.
Yeah,
And
exactly.
so doing things like that is starting to get me into a place where I can do well. So it also shows you like I knew that 2/3s were good because when morphs will attack you, you can obviously block. We just talked about 2/3s. But if you have two 2/3s and they can block a morph that unmorphs into a 4/4 or like a 5/3 or 5/2, then you're feeling good because then you don't
And your
really
opponent has to like order blockers, and they're both
exactly.
fucking morphs.
Yeah, stuff like
I
that.
don't know. This
Yeah.
one first.
So so knowing that like what the common morphs are and the ones that really matter that will like change combat, which essentially
Yeah,
like oh do they have like oh am I really worried if this is like the 3/3 first striker which costs 5 to unmorph, or the canyon lurkers is a 5/2 that unmorphs for 4, so that's one that they might throw out first, things like that.
yeah. Oh
They're
yeah,
like
that's the one that's always first for me.
mhm.
Or like Sagu archers and like random crap like
Yeah,
that.
yeah. And like when you're attacking into your opponent and they have like 5 mana up and it's green and you're flying in the air, you're like, wow, do I how punished do I get if because I have a 2/1 in the air? If they have the 2/5, I'm pretty boned.
They
And then they
really hold their Sagu archer.
they flip it
Yeah,
and it's the fucking 2/5 and you're like,
it's
God damn
always
it.
the 2/5. Yep.
Especially because like everyone's playing a bunch of different colors, so like you have to know all of the different ones because like
Yeah.
they could have
Morph
almost
is
anything.
extremely. It's not only extremely like knowledge testing. You just have to
Hmm.
know. It's also very skill testing because you have to think through the decision trees on what the different realistic morphs could be,
And
and
why
then
they would want to do different actions depending on which ones they
and like
have.
what the information they've given me so far in the game. How did they act? How did they play their cards?
Hmm.
And then you know there are three morphs this could be. Two of them this play is right, one of them this play is right. Are they all equally likely? That kind of stuff. Like
Yeah, which
sometimes you
gets
just you make the right play and it was wrong. Like you played around three morphs and it was the fourth one that got you. That just
yeah.
happens.
That is like, what are you gonna do?
And there's
Um,
rare morphs that you just shouldn't bother playing around. Like they're
yes,
just gonna screw you sometimes.
that's a really good point. Because like when your opponent has 3 morphs and you cast a spell and then they counter it with the blue one that like counters and steals your spell,
Yeah,
uh,
that's insane.
the
Yeah.
snake one, like that happened to me, and it's just like, well, there's no way I'm not playing my spell when we're top
Yeah.
decking.
That's
And
just
they
gonna
just
do nothing for the like there's nothing I can do against that card.
yeah, it's like yeah, Karu Spell Snatcher. It's like it's just gonna get me. And a lot of
Yeah.
games go into that situation where you're both kind of
It's
like
like the
top
original
decking.
hostage taker.
Yeah. Oh God. Um.
Um, I always get screwed by the red one that active treasons. And they're just like, oh, yeah, got
Mhm.
me again.
Got me again. Um. But yeah. Anyway, I am slowly getting better at this format, and that's what's kind of fun about it for me at this moment is like seeing, okay, I'm starting to get it, but it took the learning curve was really, really steep for me.
Yeah,
And I think it was probably for a lot of people as
for
well.
sure. It's just so different than what you've been playing recently.
It's so different than modern draft formats, and you really are like incentivized like for literally the morphs. You just need to know all of them.
Plus, you made the mistake of starting in platinum, so
Yeah, yeah,
I
that's true.
started in bronze, baby.
Yeah. Jeff,
I
as you're
got
doing
past
that,
Ghost Fireblade like fifth. It's like,
somebody passed that to me like fourth, and I was like, I mean, I didn't win,
buddy,
but
you
I,
always
well, I
Ghost
took it.
Fireblade is literally the pack one pick one that you want. It
Yeah.
is for sure going in your deck and is for sure going to be an absolute bomb in your deck.
Hmm. It's
Ghost Fireblade is like 1 mana for a equipment that has equipped one to a colorless creature, like a morph, and gives it +2/+2. Think of the equipment that gives +2/+2, and it's 1 mana +1 to equip.
mhm.
No, you're never gonna lose a game of
Yeah.
limited.
You're also totally fine with like the best things that you can do with it is putting on the mystic
Yeah,
the blue unblockable creature and then unmorphing it, and so you like got to equip it for cheap and then you just get to attack for 5.
yeah. I
That's
don't mind
definitely
putting it on the Teamer Trampler. I don't mind
Hmm.
putting it on Ice Feather even. But
Yeah.
like, yeah, it's good on everything. It's good on a fucking morphed
Yeah.
Canyon Lurker.
I put it on my my Siege Rhino recently. It was pretty good.
Nice, love it.
So we have been talking a lot about cons, but I did want to take a quick break to talk about the next beer that we're drinking, as I see Jeff has poured it into his glass.
Oh, I already
So
did that, yeah.
I knew it was going to happen, so I'm just going to take a quick break to talk about this. So we're doing two beers tonight, going old school because these ones are smaller, and this is the one I was interested in. Is True Histories After This, After That, which is a Munch style Dunkel. It's
Oh man,
5.2%.
I totally read that as Munich style until you just said that. And I was like,
Yes.
huh. I just assumed
I
it was Munich style.
I I'm assuming that Munch just means Munich. Um, you know what I mean? Uh that's basically what I was taking it
So
as.
this looks like what I expected the first one to look like.
Yeah. So yeah, because I think now we're learning that a fest beer is really something that you can drink a ton of at a beer fest.
As it's at Oktoberfest. Yeah,
Yeah,
that makes sense.
which would make sense. Um, but yeah, ooh, beautiful dunkel colors. Um, so yeah. Now, I have only been playing cons as it's
Yeah.
standing, and I'm going to be playing cons for a long time because I'm getting closer to my no pass list. Like as we talk with all draft formats, we have a no pass list, and this one was very easy for us. Basically, like Jeff, what was your no pass list for this?
Fetch lands and dig through time.
Hmm. So that was the same for me. I also wanted one more copy of Hardened Scales because I had three, and so now I have four, and I can, if I ever want to play that
Yeah. Card's too
in
mathy.
Pioneer, it is very mathy, but luckily Arena does most of it for me.
Hmm.
Or sorry, I don't like turning all the dice and remembering that, but you
Hmm.
literally just mean like counting to be like, okay, if I do this play, then it has more than that
They're
play.
only at 17. Are they dead?
Yeah, yeah. um, So yeah, so I got that, and obviously, if you ever see a fetch land, take it immediately because you're going to be playing it in the timeless format.
Yes, if you're at all interested in timeline. Now, I will say, I drafted 3 drafts of cons. I would say overall, like relatively well. I had the one bad draft, but I got a
Hmm.
healthy amount of prize packs. I got 2 fetch lands from that whole experience.
That's amazing, I would
That's
say.
not enough. That's not enough.
No, well,
Three
it's not,
drafts, 2 fetch lands. It's gonna take me forever. How many
Jeff.
drafts I gotta do to get a
I
play
guess
set of everything?
I've
And they
done
weren't the fetch lands that I wanted. It
okay,
was Windswept Heath and Wooded Foothills. And
okay. See, I want wooded
uh,
foothills, so I have
I'm like okay with Wooded Foothills, but
yeah.
it's my
It's
middle
red,
one.
yeah. Um,
Exactly, but Windswept Heath is literally my bottom one. I'm least
See,
interested in
I
Windswept.
love Windswept Heath. I don't think it's going to be a deck that I can actually play in Timeless, but Windswept Heath is the Boggles fetch land,
I
so
see.
yeah,
Gotcha.
that's what it
Um,
is.
but I was expecting, since I think a lot of people are playing cons, I think very few people will actually play timeless. I was kind of expecting fetch lands to come around in the draft a little bit more. I
Mm,
had to open one in the draft, and I opened one in a prize pack. But
hmm.
that's it. Like, I kind of expected you'd be seeing these
More of them.
a little more often.
I think people have gotten the memo that like remember when
Because
we
they're
were
not good limited cards. They're
they're
okay. They're worse
they're
than the dual
okay.
lands and tri lands.
That's true. They are worse, especially if you're trying to like splash a color because you don't really want to put a basic in your
Yeah,
deck because
you don't want to put the basic splat of
mm-mm,
the splash color. So and then you take a damage instead of gaining a life.
exactly.
Um, like I don't know. I was kind of maybe I've only done 3 drafts, right? But like, are you seeing that these are not
I
flying
have
around the tables?
I no, I have been past one flooded strand and it was like second pick. So
Yeah.
it was just somebody who was like either they had all of them because they crafted them or they're just like I don't really want to do that. But
I thought there'd be a lot of people that just didn't care, right? Like even you were saying because you weren't sure on timeless, like maybe I'll just don't have to take fetch lands, you know?
no. So originally when I didn't know about timeless because that wasn't a format yet, I wasn't going to take them because
I
I was
see.
like what am
Sorry,
I going to do with
right.
this?
Yeah. Yeah.
But now that obviously we have a format we can play them in, I want to have them. That's something I do care about, especially because they're
Right.
lands. But it does, it's my number one gripe right now with Timeless is that when I'm looking at decks I want to build, I don't have any of the cards because I didn't draft them in Strixhaven. Because why would I take Dark Ritual or why would I take
Yeah.
Lightning Bolt when I can't play it anywhere besides the draft? I would just pass it. And now I'm kicking myself because, man, if I had a playset of Lightning Bolts, it'd be a lot easier to play some of these decks I want to play. Um,
Yeah.
so in the past, I may have, that was a long time ago, guys, but I may have given you some advice saying, hey, don't draft that because you don't need it. Well, you never know what the future holds. Maybe you should just draft cards.
Yeah, maybe this is a good learning lesson, but
Yeah.
um, I mean, come on, did Wizards even know this was happening? Like,
No,
they were
but
just like,
there,
oh no, let's put Lightning Bolt in there, whatever.
no, but to be fair, there's a few people on Twitter that had been talking for a long time, being like, they're gonna bring a modern like format to Arena. They're gonna bring modern to Arena.
Yeah,
Now they were incorrect. It's they didn't bring modern to Arena, but they did bring a
right.
format that has,
This is
uh,
so much. This makes so much more sense. Like,
yeah,
obviously, modern is never going to be on Arena,
no,
but timeless. It's just honestly, people are talking. Is it Legacy Light? Is it more like modern? Is it Vintage Light? It's its own thing.
it's its
That's
own thing.
it's
Yeah.
its own thing. You're allowed to play cards that are banned in Legacy,
Hmm.
but the card pool is much, much smaller than Legacy. So it really just is its own thing.
Yeah. I don't have those Aether vials. I want to play Death and Taxes.
I mean, you still can. You can play the Juggernaut Peddler or whatever.
uh,
Have you seen that card? It's an alchemy card or whatever.
wait.
It you play it and it's like a 2/2 for 2 or 3/2 for 2 or something, and it turns a card in your opponent's hand into a Juggernaut.
Oh, what?
Yeah. So you exile a card from their hand and then they get a Juggernaut.
Oh, okay. Was this
I
Dominaria?
think
Yeah,
I think
this is
it's pretty good,
that seems pretty good.
especially in Timeless, but it's such like a weirdo like alchemy card that
Oh yeah, you get to choose the card too.
yeah, yeah, it's like playing like a bat or whatever,
Yeah.
but this is exiled for good and they just get a shitty card.
Yeah. Does my deck lose to Juggernauts though? That's the question.
Can I beat a Juggernaut?
Yeah.
Well, I'll
Yeah.
have Thalia, so it'll cost oh no, still 4. Damn
No, it
it.
still costs 4.
Yeah, it's not a
Um,
vehicle because they didn't have that technology at the time.
yeah, and the Juggernaut is just a 2/2 with vigilance, and so it can't trade with the Juggernaut. Um,
Yeah.
hmm. Interesting. I do like the idea though. Though the thing is, like, I don't want to invest rare wild cards into alchemy cards that could be horrible.
That's true. That's
Yeah,
true.
when I could like invest that into the lightning bolts or the dark rituals that I want, or the blood moon is mythic, so that's not an issue. I can get those whenever I want. But rare wild cards right now are tight,
Yeah.
as always.
And this format requires a lot of them.
Yes.
Um, so I did take the plunge, and
Okay.
after getting frustrated about the just 2 fetch lands and not the ones I wanted in 3
Hmm.
drafts, I was like, if I'm gonna play Timeless, like it's just gonna take forever of cons drafting.
Hmm.
And I enjoy cons draft, but I'm just not in a super drafty mood right now.
Hmm.
So like 3 drafts was pretty solid. Like, okay,
Okay.
I remember what this format was like. I had a ton of fun. I'm not feeling like I really want to jump back in
Yeah.
to another one immediately. Um, maybe I'll
I
catch the bug again before it goes, but it's
I
like
I will be drafting it until I can do well.
if I find time, maybe I'll hop into the Arena Open. I don't know, but like because that's just super fun always,
Yeah.
I think. Um, but I was just like, you know what? This isn't happening. I'm not going to
Hmm.
actually collect the fetch lands from drafting this set.
Yeah.
Um, so I just built a deck. So I have played Timeless. And because I don't know, like I don't know if I mentioned this on air. I don't think so. I
Mm-mm.
think we just talked about it in the Discord and like, me and you talking. But I made a push to Mythic recently in Explorer.
Yeah.
And I actually just kind of kept pushing, and now I'm like, I don't know what I'm ranked right now, but I'm top
Hmm.
50
Oh,
mythic for
amazing.
sure. And so I'm playing timeless. I jumped into timeless, and I was like, we're playing ranked timeless. And so I'm like in the top 50 mythic, like ranked timeless queues.
Oh,
And yeah, brush off my shoulders or whatever, but I am 5-0 in this format. So
wow.
I'm pretty much a master. But Zach, this is, I had to throw in the humble brag. Actually,
Mhm.
it was just a brag, I
It was
guess.
just a brag, but
Um, I had to throw in the brag because what I'm about to tell you is truly shameful.
okay.
Have you heard the quote? I believe it's from Batman that says, "You either die a hero or you live long enough to see yourself become the villain."
Hmm.
All
You're the
right,
villain,
I've been playing Rakdos Blood Moon.
but
And
but I mean, you're the hero of my heart, though. That sounds
okay, I'll take
fantastic.
that.
Now, to be fair, I am also undefeated in Timeless, but that's because I haven't played a
Oh,
single
nice.
match.
Yeah,
Um, and so Blood Moon has not happened to me yet, so I don't know if I feel. I really currently it's a card I actually want to play.
yeah.
Um, but anyway, tell me about your list because I'm going to steal it immediately.
Sure, yeah, I could post it too. I mean, there are a
Ooh.
lot of rare wildcards involved. So I wanted to, I didn't want to brew in a crazy way. What I said
Hmm.
was like, you're only allowed to craft sure things,
Hmm.
cards that are absolutely just gonna be
Right.
staples of the format. And so that's why I landed on this Rakdos list, because the cards I
Hmm.
had to craft were Deathrite Shaman,
Hmm. Duh.
Ragavan,
Duh.
Orcish Bowmasters, which
Duh.
when I read the card, I was always like, oh man, people are going crazy for this card. It's really good. Now that I play it, I'm like, this card is so stupidly good that
Hmm.
like I think it's the best card in the format. Um, and then fetchlands.
Hmm.
Oh, and lightning bolts.
And Blood Moon.
Yeah, and Blood Moon, but again, you already mentioned this mythic, right? So
Oh,
like,
right. So that yeah, it doesn't put a strain on your wild cards.
yeah, the rares were like lightning bolt,
Hmm.
orcish bowmasters, deathrite shaman, and fetchlands.
Hmm.
So that's like, 20 wild cards or whatever. It's a lot of wild cards. But all of those are absolute sure things to either be in the format or get banned and I get my wild cards back. So,
That's true.
or
That's
sorry,
true.
restricted, and then I get
Restricted.
three
Hmm.
wild cards back. But the deck's super simple. It's okay, so the 2 drops are 4 Orcish Bowmasters.
Hmm.
The 3 drops are 3 Blood Moon and 2 Fable of the Mirrorbreaker, because gotta throw Fable in there.
Yeah.
And then it's a crap load of 1 drops. You got Inquisition of Kozilek, a
Hmm.
couple of Thoughtseize, you got Lightning Bolt, you have Ragavan, you have Dragon's Rage Channeler,
Hmm.
Mishra's Bauble. Basically, the idea is you're gonna put pressure and then you're gonna kind of fuck them with disruption, and that disruption comes in the form of discard and turn 2 Blood Moon. It
Yeah.
means a lot of games.
Hmm.
Um, because people are so greedy. Like they're playing
Hmm.
4 color like money piles of
Yeah, because
random
I know that
crap.
like Omnath is like a big thing. I've heard that people are like playing
Yeah,
four
people
color
are like,
Omnath stuff.
if Orcish Bowmasters isn't the best card in the format, then Oko is.
Hmm.
And people are playing like, you know, everything but black Oko piles or the Omnath ones. Or sometimes instead of Omnath, you do the Bant plus black, which is like Oko and Bowmasters to try to just play all the best cards.
Hmm.
Um, and so yeah, sometimes you go fetch land, Deathrite Shaman, untap, Blood Moon.
Mm.
Yeah, have fun.
Mm.
Are you glad you fetched that Triome? Because um, and I haven't won that many games with Blood Moon.
Hmm.
I've just been winning from playing out absurdly powerful 1 drops. Um, I think I actually, of the 10 wins, so 5 matches, 10 wins, I think I won 1 game with Blood Moon. And it was against a Rakdos deck. Or no, sorry,
Oh,
it was Jund. It was
okay.
Jund. Um,
I'm like,
but they
what?
had they had like found a forest,
Hmm.
but they never found a swamp. And I'm just sitting there like beating them in the face with a Ragavan, and their hand is like Lurrus, Fatal Push, Orcish Bowmasters. I'm just like Ragavan attacks,
Yeah.
Ragavan
They're
attacks.
just like
So that game was
basic swamp off the top.
literally won by Blood Moon. Like that, I
Mm,
can't claim any. That's what I was expecting is Blood Moon's just going to come down and just win,
win,
and it did that time because
but no
like I
other
saw them
times.
like I'm like sitting there like put Lurrus in your hand, put Lurrus in your hand, put Lurrus in your hand, and like put Lurrus in your hand, like that's Blood Moon.
Yeah.
Got him.
Oh, that's hilarious. Like the only thing you have to worry about that is the Ragavan thing, right? Because Ragavan makes treasures, and so then
Yeah,
they could dig their way out
for sure.
slowly. But like, hopefully, you can just kill them by
Or
then.
if they usually don't sniff it out when they're playing against Rakdos,
Hmm.
so they are often not fetching basics. If you're against like mono red or something, you're like, that's got
Hmm.
to be Blood Moon. I'm gonna go fetch a swamp.
Yeah,
But I think people aren't used to it yet, so they're like, oh, I'm obviously gonna go fetch a tapped
fix
Blood
my
Crypt,
colors.
and
Yeah, yeah.
yeah,
You're like, well, it'll get one of those.
yeah,
Um,
and
I mean, Jeff, this is the punishing greedy players is something I love to do. That's why I'm having such a hard time in cons draft because it's trying to teach me to be a greedy player, and I want
no,
to
yeah,
punish people.
you gotta lean into the greediness in
Yeah,
cons.
because like my opponent's just like 1 mana 0/4. I'm like, fuck,
I can't beat that.
I can't attack it to an 0/4. Like I can, but I guess it just triggers. Like one of my favorite cards is just like the 2 mana 2/1 that like if you attacked, they have to discard a card. I love that
Right.
card
Yeah.
because I'm like,
You would love that card.
fuck your
I mean, there are a
hand,
lot of sets where that card would be excellent, right?
busted. And so
And
like,
it's fine.
yeah, it's really
And I
good when you
think
have a
even
bunch.
like in Fate Reforged or Dragons, I think both those
Hmm.
formats that became they got a lot more aggressive and that became an excellent card.
Okay.
The one I remember being amazing, and I can't remember if it was Fate Reforged or Dragons. I think it was Dragons. Is Heart Piercer Bow. Heart Piercer Bow was like
Became really
the one
good
that, yeah, you
because I
equip and it like pings. It's awful in cons, but it's triple cons, but it's like really
really
fucking
good.
good. I think in Dragons cons.
It's so funny because like I remember seeing the bow. It goes around all the time and no one plays it because whatever. But I
It's
remember
just,
hearing that it was really good, and I was like, how is this
yeah,
really? I know that there's the red creature that's the one who had it says like heart pierce or something
yeah.
on the card. That one's really good because it deals 2 damage or something. But anyway, maybe I need to take your list and go over to Timeless to start beating down on the greedy
Oh
decks
yeah.
just to make myself feel better about how horrible of a time I'm having in cons. Especially because
There's still,
it's just like that. Everyone talks about how great cons draft is and how it's one of the greatest formats ever, and it's so nostalgic and all this stuff. And I don't have the nostalgic part as much because I didn't really play it, and I don't like doing the greedy thing as much as everybody else does apparently. And so I just
yeah.
like get stuck with like, oh, I guess is this how you draft a greedy deck? I don't know. It reminds me
The
of
limited
Kaldheim.
community has that bias, right? Like, yeah, call
Hmm.
people love to call time is exactly what I was gonna say too. And
Hmm.
Kaldheim, the best deck was the five. I called it 5 color green because it was
Yeah,
just you
yeah,
take all the green
green
cards and then you
cards.
take whatever. I think my favorite archetype in cons is 5 color morph,
Hmm.
which is basically what you do. And this is something I actually um like I wasn't listening to content at the time, so I kind of quote unquote figured this out.
Yeah.
What my strategy was, and that I've carried over here a bit, is you literally take every single land you see um, for about the first half of the draft, and then you take the best card you see in every single pack.
Hmm.
And what happens is all of the filler picks, when there's not a land or there's not a bomb, you take one of the morphs, one of the like you don't care which one, a fruit weapon
Hmm.
master, snow rider, you want those ones, but you kind of
Hmm.
take whatever morph you can. But you end up with a deck that is all the colors. You have like I think the one I drafted on Arena was I think 15 non-basic lands. Like I just took like
Wow.
literally every single one, unless there's some unreasonably good bomb. Like if you see like flying crane technique or something, you fucking
Hmm.
take the thing that gives your team flying and double strike. But like short of something on that power level, Ghost Fireblade, obviously, like
Yeah.
you take the land.
I mean, Ghost Fireblade in that deck would be amazing too.
Yeah,
So.
exactly. And then that's basically the whole draft strategy.
Hmm.
Now, it doesn't always work because you don't see a lot of lands usually because other people
Hmm.
are taking them.
Yeah.
Um, but it's worth it to spend a high pick on just some lands just to see. And then sometimes you just get there and you're like, okay, I have all the lands and now I can take whatever the hell I want.
Hmm.
And you just open such like cons is pretty bomb heavy. So if you
Yeah.
can take whatever bomb you see, like cons is balanced, the bomb heaviness is balanced by the fact that in later packs you can't take the bombs because you're Jeskai and that's an Abzan
Hmm.
bomb.
Yeah.
When you do this, you're just like, take the bomb. Oh,
Hmm.
you passed me a bomb? Take the
Take the
bomb.
bomb.
Oh, you passed me a bomb? Take the bomb.
Uh.
And this is when I started like really 3-0ing all the local
Hmm.
F&M events or whatever. I was just like, people are passing me triomes in pack one, or they weren't called tri-lands.
Hmm.
And then they're passing me like siege rhinos and stuff in pack two because it's not
Color.
their con.
Hmm.
And I'm just like, yep, slap that in there, slap that in there. Ooh, a weapon master. Okay, I guess I'll take that. Okay. The deck is just functional because you have
Uh.
morphs and then you have bombs that take over the game.
Yeah. Well, now I have to basically open a pack. If it doesn't have an Alpine Grizzly, I guess I'm taking the land.
Yeah.
That's my new
Okay, so my
draft
favorite
strategy.
archetypes in order. You definitely want to be Bear Punch aggro.
Bear
That's like the
punch.
dream. That's the dream. Then I actually like five color morphs. Like
Hmm.
that's a more realistic deck. You're gonna draft that way more often than you're gonna
Yeah.
draft Simic
The
Bear Punch.
yeah.
So that's why I said it was my favorite deck. But I guess you're right.
Hmm.
Simic Bear Punch is like the one. If I'm doing the dream draft,
Yeah.
like that's what I'm doing.
It's bear punching.
And then actually somehow another Simic deck, just Simic Secret Plans, like morph. If you can
Hmm.
get a couple of Secret Plans or a Trail of Mystery, again, you just
Yeah.
play all the morphs. Um, then after that, like, I don't know, Warriors is an awesome deck if it comes together. And then you do like the standard thing where you just draft enemy colors
Hmm.
in pack one and then let the packs tell you which of the two uh, wedges to go into. You,
Nice.
you never really want to start with an allied color pair. I think that's the biggest mistake you can make in cons is draft an
Hmm.
allied, get into an allied color pair early, like blue white or something, and then it's like, well, if Jeskai not open,
Then you're screwed.
then you're playing a crappy blue white deck. Like,
Yeah. That is something that I didn't fully grasp until more recently, where it's like, yeah, okay, so like I can go into blue red and feel okay, but when I
yeah,
have white cards, I'm like, oh, there's a blue card, maybe I'll do it. Like that is, it's also just like
yeah,
in modern draft formats, you could do that and that was fine, or even in the three color draft formats we've had on Arena before, which is like New Capena, that was fine. Doing allied colors was totally chill. But this
right.
really punishes you for that. It's like, no, you need to be enemy colors so that you have more wedges to get into.
Yeah, exactly.
Um,
And you want to hope to like if you're just doing the normal how you draft a thing, if you
mhm,
commit to a wedge early, it's so much more like people are used to committing to two colors early, and then sometimes you don't really get there because you get uh, cut.
mhm,
It's so much worse when you commit to a wedge and the set is full of stinkers and like getting to enough playables is already kind of difficult.
mhm.
You get cut so hard if you're just like, I'm just gonna do Jeskai on your first pick. Like
Yes,
when you get cut, your deck is now awful
garbage.
instead of being subpar.
Opening
So
like a three color bomb can be so brutal, and that's also what's so
yeah.
annoying when your opponent has one. My first draft, I thought was decent. And the first thing that happens is that my opponent slams their Zergo Helm Smasher, which is like a 4 mana
Oh Jesus.
7/2. No, it's a 5 mana 7/2 with haste that attacks and isn't indestructible on their turn, and then whenever you block it, like chump it, it gets bigger because it gets counters.
Yeah.
Like,
I remember my memory is all of the cons are unbeatable except Narset. Narset is kind
mhm,
of whatever, but all of the other ones are like virtually unbeatable.
yeah, just like, what the fuck am I supposed to do? And I've had Narset before and be like, sweet, I'm doing great. Until I remember that Narset doesn't have flying because her picture looks like she's flying. And
Oh,
some
she'd
of
be
it,
amazing if she had flying.
yeah, because then you,
I remember Narset, usually people would deck themselves with, like they would be
mhm,
worried about decking themselves with her, so they wouldn't attack, or
attack.
they would like draft a way to like Cranial Archive. They draft a way to not deck
Oh, is
themselves.
that what Cranial Archive is for?
Yeah, if you have Narset, you're not going to deck
That
yourself.
makes sense. Yeah, so there's an artifact that just shuffles your graveyard into your library that like
But it
wheels
just
because
means like you
nobody
can't play
wants
like
it.
treasure cruises and stuff. Like it's
Well, I was looking at the Cranial Archive thinking, oh, could I just target my opponent and shuffle their
to
graveyard
shut
into
off
the
treasure cruise.
yeah,
Yeah,
which is like such a terrible thing to do. Like,
it's
hey, I
awful. Yeah.
I destroyed all of these things. Do you want them back? Like, maybe I'll
Ooh, all your best cards. Yeah. So I'm gonna treasure cruise away my crappy cards, and then you're gonna shuffle my good ones back in.
yeah,
Thank you.
exactly. Oh man. Um,
Yeah.
anyway, Jeff, I kind of want to end on a timeless note and see
Sure.
where you're going with the format and what what your next steps are. So, is this like you found your Rakdos deck? This is the deck you're going to be playing for a long time.
Um, I don't know if I'll stick to Blood Moon forever. If people get more reasonable about what they're doing, and stuff like, people just haven't quite figured out the mono black, Dark Ritual, Necropone stuff. Like,
Hmm.
I played against mono black, actually forgot to side out my Blood Moons, and I still won. I like
Oh,
drew one. I was like, ooh, it was
this
a
is
sketchy card to
this
have
is
in my
bad.
deck.
Yeah.
I mean, they have a few utility lands, I guess, but it's really not worth playing this. So I may switch over to like Rakdos, Luris, a little more
Hmm.
common thing, or maybe I'll play Liliana or something in its place eventually. Right now, the Blood Moon, I think, even though I haven't been winning a lot of games with it, I think there's enough decks where if I had drawn it, it would have
It would
been
have been so
powerful.
good. Yeah.
Um, that I'm still interested. Like people are doing the, I want to have Teferi and Oko and Lightning Bolt in my deck. So
Hmm.
um, I will say, like, I think people were worried about turn one combos and shit like that. I haven't seen that myself, and I haven't seen anyone who's playing the format see any of that. The format is extremely interactive.
Hmm.
Like, it's the most interaction-based format I've ever played. There are no decks that just don't care about what you're doing
Hmm.
at the moment. I'm sure those will get figured out, or as cards get added, we'll
Yeah,
see them.
for sure.
Right now, it's all about we're all just playing amazing cards that are amazing because they're interactive, and it's like who's gonna do it better?
Hmm.
And I'm loving it. It's like
Yeah.
who's playing Ragavan better? Who's playing Mishra's Bauble? Like you got to know some tricks. You got to know how to
Hmm.
play with fetchlands. You got to know how to use Mishra's Bauble. Um,
Yeah, and brainstorm and all that kind of stuff. That's the learning
Brainstorm. Yeah, I'm
curve.
not playing a blue deck, but yeah, if you're playing a blue deck, you gotta just do a quick read up on how to play. I think Reed Duke wrote an article about how to play
Hmm.
Brainstorm, so I'd probably go read that one if I was
Yeah.
going to play a blue deck.
Read that one. Covert Go Blue is streaming again. He doesn't stream very often anymore. He just makes YouTube videos, but he's been streaming a lot. And he only plays blue essentially, as his
Is he
name would
doing
suggest.
is he doing best of one though? So I'm playing best of three. I
Oh,
know
that's
he
true. He
likes
is
best of
playing.
one.
He is playing best of one. Yeah.
That would be a
Um,
totally different format that I can't comment on. I'm sure Blood Moon is like even better there, but
probably, but I more so in the brainstorm won't change in that
yeah, yeah,
matchup.
yeah. You can probably learn how to correctly play
Yeah.
Brainstorm. And
Um,
also, if you're playing blue, Brainstorm should be in your deck.
mhm.
Just let's nip that in the bud right now. It doesn't matter what your deck is, Brainstorm should
Mhm.
be in it. Um, if you're playing black, Orcish Bowmasters should be in your deck
Mhm. It also makes fun things
because
with
it's so good against Brainstorm.
brainstorm. Yeah, that's what I was gonna say. Yeah, that like that becomes a fun little thing.
When you're playing against another black deck, you never want to be the first player to play Orcish Bowmasters.
Hmm.
So you get these, just like the Morph Chicken, you get
Hmm.
Bowmasters Chicken, where you're trying to like draw enough cards to really incentivize your opponent to play their Bowmasters because you have one
Hmm.
to like kill their Bowmasters in response. And so your opponent's like, I'm going to draw two cards. And you're like, hmm, that's very
Is
tempting.
yeah.
I'm going to wait for a Thoughtseize.
Hmm. Uh, that's cool. I have to say that last week I had talked about this in our Discord as well. When Timeless was first announced, I was very low on it just because I was very focused on like Explorer and wanting Pioneer on like in the client and being able to go back and forth between paper and all that stuff. Going through cons and actually watching and seeing a lot of other people's deck lists with Timeless stuff, and the fact that fetchlands are actually on Arena. Like we have talked about this since the beginning of the podcast, and like whether they would bring them and like change them so that they bolted you instead of just one life, and would that be enough to make them terrible so you could actually play it?
Right.
Blah blah blah. I think that I should just be excited and jump on board. I am getting excited hearing about it. So I will definitely be playing Timeless. Obviously, I'm trying to collect for it now. Um, and so
It's really fun. I don't know where it's gonna land. Right now we're in the like everyone just wants to play the crazy
the
cards
Wild
phase, and
West stuff, yeah.
I haven't ran into anything that's too stupid,
Hmm.
or at least the stupid stuff's not consistent. Um, I think it's kind of it makes me feel kind of like I'm playing Legacy because
Hmm.
I'm playing
Brainstorm and
uh,
Fetchlands, and yeah.
Ragavan and stuff, and it's all simple but
Hmm.
technical.
Yeah.
And I feel like you eke out those small advantages, and that's how you win, and that's really rewarding.
Hmm.
And since everything in your deck costs 1 mana, or like 60% of it,
I do like
you
that.
you don't get just screwed out of games quite as
Hmm.
often. Like you can keep a one lander, and that's probably fine. Uh, Especially if Deathrite Shaman's in your hand and it's a fetch land. So
Hmm.
that's the other thing. You get to kill Deathrite Shaman. It's
Hmm.
amazing. Um, Yeah, it's just been really, really fun to play with these such high power level cards, but because your opponent is too, and the specific cards that everyone's playing with, again, are interactive, they're good because they interact with the opponent. I guess except Ragavan, which is just, it's good because if they can't kill it, then you win the
Then
game.
yeah.
But like, for the most part, it's like there, I've had no non-games. I haven't had any
Hmm.
non-games except the one when I blood mooned my opponent when they were holding all black cards, and I was like,
Yeah.
ha 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 ha, attack attack.
See, that sounds fun. Also,
I hope
like,
you draw your one swamp, asshole.
yeah, getting into black, red, or just black in general because Death Shadow was a deck I was interested in playing back
I think you
when
can
it
play
joined
Death
Historic.
Shadow in. I think you can absolutely play Death Shadow, but again, there's a lot of technical
Hmm.
proficiency that comes with Death Shadow because when everyone else has 4 lightning bolts, you gotta be
Hmm.
really careful with that life total.
That's true. So that does sound like a thing that I could be excited about. Um,
Go for
Death
it.
Shadow specifically.
For it.
Timeless is actually very much something I'm interested
And then
in
it's like,
now.
do you go Grixis? Do you go
Hmm.
red black? Do you go red green? Death
Yeah.
Shadow? Probably not red green. Or sorry,
Or it's like
definitely not red green. Like, can you play
red.
Ponza? Can we bring back
Mm,
Stone
I
Rain, Blood
mean,
Moon, Ponza?
that is something I'm very interested in.
You
A
can
Ponza
play a
deck.
lot of one-drop accelerants.
Mm,
You could play 16 if you wanted to with Deathrite's Shaman, the two elves, and the halfling, the
yeah.
lighted halfling from Lord of the Rings.
Oh, I love
You
Delighted Halfling.
you could
Okay.
turn to a Blood Moon with or or Stone Rain with extreme consistency.
That
Problem is, your opponent's going to Inquisition you on turn 1.
And then you just have a bunch of mana dorks.
And then you just have a bunch of halflings.
So we don't play Stone Rain. We play the 4 mana Stone Rain, so they
Yeah,
can't Inquisition
got him.
us. Got him.
And then they thought seized. You're like, come
Yeah,
on.
God, get out of here. No, but Panza, playing Panza or Death Shadow, or if we can get Aether Vial, Death and
I think
Taxes,
like the Ponza, Death and Taxes, all that stuff, you could build a super reasonable deck with that stuff, but it's tier two. Like
for sure.
you're if you wanna play, tier one, you gotta be playing the busted stuff. And what I wanted to call out was um, you were talking about how, maybe we missed the boat on picking some of the Strixhaven busted cards.
Mhm.
But we have been on it about, Uro's about to get banned, craft your Uros
That's
now.
true.
Oko's banned, craft your Omnath's about to get banned, craft your Omnaths now. And that's paying off for me now because there are a lot of decks where I'm just like, I have 4 Okos, I have 4 Uros, I have 4
Hmm.
Omnaths. Like I have that stuff. So the lands was the biggest part, and then, the Strixhaven stuff or
And
whatever. But
Strixhaven
for the
stuff,
most
but
part, just playing Arena this whole time and always doing the craft ban thing.
mhm.
Um, like I could build that 4 color money pile deck if that's what I wanted to play. I think I would just have to craft like swords to plowshares, basically.
Yeah, which I think I have a couple because I like Swords to Plowshare. So if I saw it, I would take it
Yeah,
whenever it
and
was
it's a
printed.
reasonable limited card.
Yeah,
It's
it's
like
great.
pretty good. So,
Yeah. Um,
or like counterspell. If I was playing counterspell, I might have to craft that.
what I think is that, you know, Wizards should really just have Strixhaven like flashback draft come back so people could draft these cards.
That
And
would be awesome. And I think that's a better solution. Like people are up in arms, and if you're one of these people, look, I don't blame you, but people are up in arms about cards that were not rares in
mhm,
their original printing
sure.
being
Hmm.
rares on Arena. That's a feel bad only because you know that that card existed in paper a long time ago at a different rarity.
Hmm.
If that card had never existed in paper, I think you would agree that this card merits a rare wild card.
Hmm.
You just want it not to be rare,
Hmm.
which I can sympathize with.
Yeah,
I think it would be great if I could spend a common wild card on Lightning Bolt. But is it this thing's going around that it's somehow unfair that Lightning Bolt requires a rare wild card? And that I don't get. Like just because you know that there's a totally different game essentially, had the card at
that's
a different
true.
rarity. Like I get that that feels bad, but I mean, come on, Lightning Bolt is an excellent card and is
Hmm.
much, much better than many cards that you can spend a rare wild card on.
Hmm.
So if you just look at it from like, if you never knew about paper magic and you were just playing Arena, nobody would have any qualms with these cards being rares. But because they existed at some point in a different capacity, it's somehow super unfair of Wizards or like a money grab. And it's
Hmm.
like, look, we already know we already know Hasbro is money grabbing. Magic is an
Hmm.
expensive game. That's the thing. Why is this the battle? People are like, Timeless won't survive unless they reprint these at Commons. You know what I'll say? Don't
Oh
hold your breath.
no.
Don't hold your breath. You're not getting Lightning Bolt for a common
Mm-mm.
wild card ever.
Yeah. Also, this is just the things that we always say is like be very careful with the wild cards that you use. Jeff had just explained a deck that like these are the best cards you can invest into those.
They're
Just
never going to print something that makes Lightning Bolt obsolete,
they're not gonna,
or at
yeah,
least
exactly.
not for a very long time.
If they ever print like a single red mana instant speed deal 4 damage to any target, the game's over, you know? Like,
Then everyone's playing Burn.
yeah, the game is just done. So I there are bigger things to worry about if that's going to be power crept, and you can invest in that if you start talking about changing rarities, like downshifting stuff that Wizards has decided is like more expensive. The same thing was Ravnica remastered. There's a lot of like commander staples are getting pushed to mythic, um, which like sure, yeah, some of those also should be mythic. I don't know why.
Right, and it's because the format is meant to be draftable.
Yeah, well, there's that, but also like the fight shouldn't. If you want to fight about anything about rarities, like sure, you're upset with lightning bolt or dark ritual or whatever, brainstorm. The real fight you should be having is actually just like convincing wizards for whatever reason to make lands, every land, like
Yeah,
not rare. Like lands
yeah,
should just be uncommon or lower for everything forever, always. But that's a, you know how impossible that fight is. So why are you making this other fight? I don't really know.
yeah. I don't totally get it, and it's like, look, Timeless is the most expensive format on Arena.
Mhm.
That's what it is. If
Yeah,
you're priced out of it, I'm sorry, that sucks. You haven't been playing long enough or whatever. Like, yeah, that's a thing. If you have to play a long time or invest some money to
invest.
buy the wild cards,
Hmm.
that's just what it is. They offer so many formats that's the
You
point.
don't. Yeah.
Standard is the entry level format. Then there's
Hmm.
Explorer, then there's historic, and then
The
there's
real
Timeless.
draft is the real entry level
Yeah,
format.
draft is entry level. That's
Yeah.
even, yeah, good point. And it's like you don't have some sort of weird right to be able to play everything you want for free.
Or cheap. Um,
Yeah. And be competitive.
the other thing is that,
I'm
like,
sorry, that's just not how it works.
yeah, but I also think that your mission to get those cards is not that difficult. When
No.
I first started playing, I knew that I needed all the shock lands. I just knew I needed lands. So anytime I had a rare wild card, I would just craft a new land, and just so I didn't have it in my account, so I would brew a little bit. There
Yeah.
are
And
things
then
with a,
keep on drafting and
yeah, and or
crafting your
just like
lands.
playing,
Drafting and crafting.
and anytime you get a rare wild card, just use it on a land before you use it for a kind of crappy card that you think might be good in something. And that can help you not spend them on things that are bad.
Yeah.
I
It if you draft for a while, you get good at draft and you're, really stingy with your wild cards,
mhm.
it won't take you that long to craft a tier one timeless deck.
And it's also I think it's more so just have a plan. Just be like,
Yeah.
I know
Have
what
something you're
deck I
working
want to
towards.
build,
Yeah.
work towards that deck, and then you'll be able to build it. It's the same with literally everything in your entire life. So there is
Yeah.
nothing in your life that doesn't need a plan to be working towards slowly every single day. Magic is just one of those other things.
And my deck has a shocking amount of non-rares. You got
Hmm.
uh
Dragon Rage
Mishra's
Chandler,
Bauble,
Mishra's Bauble.
Dragon's Rage Channeler, Fatal Push, Unholy Heat.
Hmm.
Um, like I was surprised at the number of uncommons that ended up in my deck list because people talk about how every card in the deck is a rare.
Hmm.
It's not Doesn't have to be quite true, although like
You can
I
see
mentioned, I spent
them. Yeah.
20 rare wildcards, but 20 is achievable.
Hmm. It is. I literally have them sitting in my account right now, and you just saying that you only use 20 makes alarm bells go off in my mind. Whereas like I could do that literally right now. So
Yeah, it
anyway,
was 20 because it was DRS, it was
hmm,
Bowmasters, it was Lightning Bolts, and it was two fetch lands.
yeah,
So 20.
yeah. So yeah. Anyway,
But then again, I have all the other lands, I guess, to be
exactly.
fair.
So you have all the shocks and the whatever you need, um,
Fast lands and
which I have
utility
too.
lands and stuff.
So, but there was the first thing I did when I joined was make those. I made that point earlier. Anyway, Jeff, let's get to last call. We don't need to talk about MTG finance too much, but yeah, if you ever want to fight us on that, or if you want to have any more discussions with that, just go into our Discord. The link is in the show notes. It's our Arena
Yeah,
Regulars Discord. We will
I didn't want to end on a
continue.
negative note there.
It's not
Timeless,
really
I
negative.
just wanted to say Timeless has been super, super fun.
Yeah.
And like, it's been greater than I expected. I expected it to just be fun because you get to play with cool cards, but it's
Hmm.
also been like really, really back and forth, swingy like games, super play skill dependent, and
Hmm.
yeah, it's just been like every game has been a real game where
Hmm.
both players were like just interacting with what the other person was doing. And I kind of expected to just get janked out of a few games, jank some people out of a few games myself, and
Yeah.
get screwed and flooded and stuff. But that doesn't really happen
Hmm.
because everything's so cheap. You play so few lands. You just kind of like play a real game every game, and that's been super sweet.
Nice. Makes me really excited to play the format, and invest into it because it's probably going to be the ones I play. The last thing I want to touch on before we go is how many like digital only cards are you dealing with in the format?
I did see one, so I
Okay.
played against Rakdos Sack,
Hmm.
and it was playing a card that was like, if you lost, if you gained life and your opponent lost life, seek two vampires for 1 mana.
Oh.
So
Oh,
you
that's
like
a new
activate
card.
the anvil and it like
Hmm.
drains,
Right.
and then you play that and you get like a blood tithe harvester and a Boldarin Epicure, or like two Epicures or two
Hmm.
harvesters or whatever. Um, so it was a draw two relevant spells for one. If I kind of have one of my engines going, the cat also triggers the I gained life.
Right.
You lost life.
Okay.
I I did often like Inquisition them and leave them with that card because I was like, don't worry about
Hmm.
it.
If you take the engine, it doesn't do anything.
Yeah, but then they did top deck the cat and they played the cat and then play that.
Well,
I was like, ah, son of a bitch. But at least you don't
yeah.
have your anvil.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, I don't know. We had a good back and forth. They won game one, I won game two, and then I kind of steamrolled them game three. Um, it felt like it's not quite there as much as I love Rakdos
Back to sack.
Sacrifice.
Yeah.
I'm not even sure they were playing Mayhem Devil. Oh no, no, they were playing Luris, so of course they're not. So
Oh, well, that's a
it,
huge mistake, right?
yeah, it was,
Anyway, we can get
yeah,
into
because I
the
was like holding removal for Mayhem Devil, and I was like, wait a minute, Luris of the Dream Dead. Well, wait a
hmm.
minute, they probably
They
don't have Mayhem Devil in
yeah,
there.
probably unless they
Yeah,
found a really neat bug.
yeah, unless there's
Um,
another Luris bug.
yeah,
But
you can play whatever you want in your deck.
um, I was really glad I added a single Overgrown Tomb to my deck so that Deathrite Shaman can exile creatures from a graveyard. And
Ooh.
you get it whenever you want because you play a bunch of fetches. So
Hmm. Love it. I love it. That see, and that's
good
stuff
Deathrite Shaman tip there.
that sounds super cool. Just one
Even in your
overgrown
black
tomb.
red deck, just play a single Overgrown Tomb. You
Hmm.
go get it, and you eat the cat out of the graveyard when they
Mm.
least expect it.
Yeah, because they're like, oh, there's no way that he can do that.
Yeah.
Amazing. Well, that makes me even more excited. So, Jeff, let's go to last call. Let's talk about these sweet beers that we had this evening.
Yes. Well, I
And
don't know
we're
if they were that sweet, but they were good. A little bitter.
yeah. So stupid. Um, let's- um, so as always, we rate our beers on a scale from bronze to mythic, just like the tiers in Arena. So before we get into it, don't feel bad about what tier you're in. Everyone's in different tiers in different times. Jeff is Mythic God, apparently. Um,
I
but
just keep winning with black red, man.
I'm
I don't know
just
why.
so good. I don't know what to do.
Yeah, yeah. I think
Um,
black red is so good, and I'm just there. But
yeah. Well, yeah. Anyway, but so just don't feel bad when we say that bronze beers are trash. They're really bad. They're horrible. They're like a 0 out of 5 scale. Like you can't even drink them.
yeah, silver beers are bad or just super boring. So yeah, if your macro brews would find themselves in silver.
Hmm. Gold beers are fine, but you wouldn't really think about them ever again.
Platinum are good. You like these, and you get them again.
Hmm. Diamond beers are exceptional. You would drink these often, and you'll show them off to your friends.
And mythic, best of the best.
Hmm.
These are the Rakdoses of the beer world.
um, so, Jeff, we haven't actually picked beers in a really long time because we stopped doing 2 beers an episode.
That's right.
But do we want to
We got to
pick
pick one.
pick our
Let's do
favorite
it.
beer? All right,
Yeah.
here we go. I'm dropping my cans. Three, two, one.
After
After
this,
this,
after
after
that.
that. All right.
Yes.
So we picked,
This is the beer that I thought I was picking when I said we should do the fest beer.
and that's what I kind of thought too. That's why I wanted to look it up. Um, but yeah, Dunkels are delicious. They're
Yeah, this was
like,
fantastic.
oh, so good. Um,
Yeah,
the only thing is that it's just not big enough. I want it to be taller.
I know, right? It's gotta be a tall boy.
hmm
I think for me, I'll give this one diamond. I
hmm
think it was just really, really excellent. I don't know. I just didn't feel like it crossed the line to mythic for me. It was like I don't know if what exactly I was hoping for.
hmm
I don't know, like I wouldn't be able to say what they need to do to improve to get
For
across that
sure.
line.
I'm not a brewer. I don't
But
know.
I loved it, and I just think I would. It fits that description perfectly. Like I'll tell people
hmm
about this, I'll go order it, but it's not my all-time favorite beer
Yeah.
list.
I'll definitely go back or and pick this up again. But I agree with you. Diamond is where it would sit. After this, after that,
Super tasty though,
yeah,
like
it's
and
so
almost like
tasty.
refreshing a little bit just with its
Yeah, and
carbonation.
it's exactly the type of one if like you're talking to someone and just randomly they throw out, "Oh, I really like Dunkels." You're like, you know where you should go. You know.
Exactly. Yeah. You
hmm
like Dunkels? I
Yeah,
got
yeah.
one for you.
hmm
Yeah.
Like just like out of left field, which you
Right.
don't hear that from people very often about. Not that they don't like Dunkels, just they don't. That's not just a word that they say. Um,
Yeah, for sure. Or if they're like, I like darker lagers.
yeah,
I got a place for you.
yeah. Uh, yeah. I also just want to go back to this place. It was super cool, just like walking in, and they have. It looks like they have some pretty good food, so it'd be nice to be there.
Nice.
Um, and then Stones, the Fest beer.
Yes.
I want to hear your thoughts on this
I
one.
I liked this.
hmm
Uh I think this landed in platinum for me.
For
It
sure.
may have been a bit of an expectation thing, like I just didn't know what it was, and now I know what it is. But even as the like drinkable, like crushable kind of thing,
hmm
I feel like I wish this had a little more kind of carbonation to it.
Oh, interesting.
It's a little flat almost, or like compared to what I'm used to, I guess, for
hmm
easy drinking lagers.
Yeah.
And maybe I'm just accustomed to that like American light,
Oh, like super
uh,
bubbly.
like drinkable bubbly thing. I guess
hmm
this is higher percentage, so that probably contributes. But
That's true.
um, yeah, I was just like I was missing, I guess, refresh. Maybe not doesn't have to be carbonated, but like I was missing a little bit of like could be a little more
Crisp.
refreshing.
hmm
Yeah.
Yeah, for sure, for sure. I I agree. Platinum is where I was putting it as well, and but I think it was good. It like
The
quickly,
flavor was great.
yeah,
I was just like, I want it to be like, I don't know, just a
crisp.
little more. Yeah.
It quickly reminded me of like a Heineken, so I would definitely recommend anyone who has it has like a hint of that. Heineken has a bit of that like kind of it's not
That's a good
skunky,
call out.
but
Yeah. It has that like,
it has like a little bit of a I don't know what the word is. I usually say like skunky-ish kind of like weedy.
it is related to skunk it, but it's not
Yeah.
like, your
It's
beer's
not
not
like
skunky.
off-putting. Yeah, it's not off-putting and
Yeah.
it's not gross. But if you are the person who likes
It does have a
Heinekens,
bit of that like rank,
hmm
like
but it's
back
sub
of the mouth taste
yeah,
going
but
on.
it's like subdued. So I would push like I like this a lot more than Heineken. Which
Oh, me
Heineken
too.
through the Silver Series I found out is much higher in my rankings than I thought. I
Yeah.
used to really not like it or think I
Yeah.
really didn't like it, but
That was a
this
really revealing series.
oh god, yeah. Um,
Yeah. I think like better Heineken is a great way to describe this beer.
yes.
Yeah.
So if that's something that you're interested in, go check out True History in Toronto. Um, really great stuff. We have some more of their beers as well, so I'm excited to see
Yes.
what else
This has
we'll be
gotten me
taking.
hyped for the other ones. And I
hmm
think part of my ranking is like I think there are better ones in my fridge than Stones. Not
hmm
that there's anything wrong with this or that it wasn't
Yes.
good. I just
Yeah.
don't want to like be like, this is mythic, and then I drink ones that I like better.
And
Like,
you're
huh.
like, oh, Actually, no, maybe it wasn't. But obviously, we've had so many beers, we know what things are
Yeah,
mythic and
yeah,
what
yeah.
aren't. But also, our rating system is a little bit flawed. That's okay.
Hey, you take that back.
I was trying to teach my wife about it when we were out like eating food or like drinking stuff. I was like, okay, what would you rate this like
Yeah,
on a scale from like 0 to 5? And I was kind of using that. And
yeah,
it ended up being like silver would like jump over gold a lot in that situation.
right.
And it just like didn't really work out. We were like drinking Red Stripes or something, and she's like, "This is exactly what I want." I was like, "Yeah, but
No,
well,
but
yeah, it is silver, but it's like better than gold beer sometimes." Like, anyway, but yeah, if you want to talk to us about how our rating system could be improved, we're not going to listen to you, but you can tell us at our Arena Regulars on Twitter and Instagram.
yeah, you'd have to convince the MTG Arena team to change theirs first.
Yeah, yeah.
You may also find us on MTG Arena under the username Arena Regulars Podcast, crushing some timeless.
Mm-hmm. And losing in some
We're
the
gonna play
cons
our standard
draft.
rogue stack.
That's it. That's all we got. Yeah, we're playing standard rogues in timeless. Um, no polluted deltas. We don't need them.
Yeah, yeah. We don't have
We don't.
the
We
wild
don't.
cards for that.
We don't have the wild cards for 'em. Or we're just playing those 4 fetches and that's it. Anyway, if you want to talk to me personally, you can find me at Zulberg. That's ZeulBerg on Twitter and Instagram. But Jeff, where can they find you?
Best place is the Discord channel. We have a lot of fun discussions there. We're going to be posting deck lists left and right. So
Mm-hmm.
come join in on the fun if you enjoy these formats as much as we do. The link for that should be in the show notes.
It is. Also, please leave us a review on Apple Podcasts. Follow us on Spotify. Leave us a review there. Go to YouTube. Do all the stuff that you need to do. Watch our videos so you can see our beautiful faces. If you want to see more of my face, I'm also streaming Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday on Twitch at regular_Zach. Usually like 10 to 2. Sometimes Jeff is there as well. And some more people from the Discord. So come check us out. And the best thing you could do if you like our podcast is just tell your friends. Be like, hey, do you like podcasts about magic and beer? Listen to these guys. It helps us out a lot, and you know, we really like that. This has been the Arena Regulars.
Reminding you that if you want to dominate your next cons draft, you got to play Simic Bear Punch.
Good night. All right, that's fine.